Now, even though the United States has substantially increased assistance for the growing number of drought victims in the Horn of Africa, aid groups are criticizing U.S. policies. They say the United States failed to help prevent the famine emergency in Somalia. VOA's Nico Colombant reports.
Camps in Kenya are filling up with more and more people desperately fleeing Somalia in search of help and food. Severe drought-hit areas also include northern Kenya, where this elderly couple is barely surviving. An aid worker with World Vision Kenya, Nicholas Wasuna, expressed his frustration at the world's inability to act soon enough.
The severity of this drought is highlighted on its impact on vulnerable people like children and the elderly gentleman whose house we're in now. The impact is severe. We need to do much more, especially in disaster risk reduction. We need to make disaster risk reduction a political priority and invest accordingly, because these scenes we should never see again. The reality is drought will continue to be with us, but we need to do much more, much sooner.
During the mid-1980s, after a deadly drought hit Ethiopia, the U.S. government took the lead in saying this type of human catastrophe should never happen again. It set up what it called a Famine Early Systems Network, known as FuseNet, which exists to this day. The current U.S. administration has held numerous meetings as part of efforts to set up a long-term program called Feed the Future. The initiative promises to address the root causes of hunger around the world, and especially in Africa. But in the case of Somalia, the possibility to help has been made extremely difficult, since the worst drought-hit areas are controlled by the Al-Shabaab insurgency, labeled by the U.S. government as a terrorist group. U.S. laws prevent money from being spent on projects in Al-Shabaab-controlled areas. Samuel Worthington, the head of Interaction, an alliance of U.S.-based aid organizations, explains.
I think the challenge is that the U.S., there are significant political anti-terror challenges in the region, and those have resulted in an inability for the U.S. to work with Al-Shabaab in any way.
Some aid activists say there should be a loosening of the rules for the U.S. government to try to save lives in Al-Shabaab areas. They point to organizations making this effort, like the United Nations World Food Program. Amelia Casella is a WFP spokeswoman.
Al-Shabaab is not a monolithic organization, and those in control of the various parts of the South are not just one, in essence, one control and command mechanism. I think it's important to note that we're working where we can work.
U.S. officials have blamed Al-Shabaab for causing the drought to turn into a famine by preventing aid from reaching victims in areas they control. John Browse, a top official with the United States Agency for International Development, also defends the U.S. early warning system.
As far back as August of 2010, we were advised by FUSE, as we call it, that a drought was in fact looming. And if you look back over the course of, well, since August of 2010 until now, the United States has responded to that crisis, or that looming threat, with $459 million of assistance. So this isn't something that the United States is just now waking up to and just now responding to. We have been actively involved in meeting the needs of this region for the last year, and in fact, of course, for many years before that.
But aid activists say in this case, anti-terror efforts and security concerns got in the way. The long-term agricultural-based solutions which are being worked on proved ineffective, while they say the early warnings did not lead to enough early action. Nico Colombant, VOA News, Washington.
For more information on any of today's stories, please visit us online at voaafrica.com. You can also visit us on Facebook. Just search for In Focus.